Hey everybody, Alex Kazor, SteelersDepot.com back for another Pittsburgh Steelers recap and analysis. Pittsburgh Steelers moved to 8-0 with their crazy, wacky, wild 24-19 win over the Dallas Cowboys Sunday afternoon. First time in franchise history they start a season 8-0, and really this game feels like a carbon copy of what happened last week versus Baltimore. You're down in the first half. You have to come back with Ben in the second half, and then you have to hold off the potential final drive with Minka Fitzpatrick making a play in the end zone. So very reminiscent of what happened versus Baltimore. Of course, the big difference here is you're not facing one of the best teams in the AFC. You were facing one of the worst teams in the NFC, in the Dallas Cowboys, who were 2-6, come out of this one 2-7. So that is the obvious disappointment about how close and nerve wracking this game was. So let's talk about what happened. Not to use this as an excuse, it's more of an explanation, but clearly this was a team that was pretty tired. It felt like a team that was playing their third road game in a row and coming off two very physical, mentally and physically taxing games against the Tennessee Titans and Baltimore Ravens, two of the better teams in the AFC and the NFL. And I think that kind of caught up to Pittsburgh in this one. Not to excuse it, not to say that that's okay or that's acceptable or, you know, don't worry about it, guys. I mean, that's obviously not the approach I'm trying to take here, but just the reason for why this one was as ugly and close as and competitive as it was. The Steelers overall on both sides, offense, defense, did not have a lot of energy. They struggled up front, offensive line, defensive line. They did not play their best for sure. In Dallas, overall, even with Pittsburgh's comeback, I think won the line of scrimmage. So offensively, really no semblance of a run game, even in short yardage situations. They struggled there against a Dallas team that came into this one with the worst run defense in football. So that is really disappointing. The lack of physicality, intensity, and I think the reason for that is just that they were kind of really spent physically and mentally. And really, just like last week, the second half turned things around. And just like the Ravens game, they went to their four receiver set, their 0-1 personnel, and let Ben do his thing. Now, Ben was obviously playing more hobbled this week with that knee injury. He says he's going to be fine. Obviously, he finished this one out. So, sure, that knee's going to be sore, but I don't expect Ben to miss any sort of time. Just going to be limpy Ben for maybe another week or two. But he took control of the game and, hit short passes to Deontay, to Juju especially, who continues to come up with big plays, to Claypool. Ben was not perfect. There were some throws that were off, short and long. And could you attribute some of that to the injury potentially? But Ben, just like last week, was the reason for the offense. He was the only part of the offense in terms of the pass game versus run game that was able to get going. And once they kind of put the ball in Ben's hands and let him do his thing, the offense finally saw success. Anytime they went tight, anytime they tried to run the football, they just really went nowhere. Again, line as a whole did not do a great job. The run blocking was poor. Pouncey, Filer, pass protection was not great either, although Ben was not officially sacked. But Villanueva, core four, they had their struggles. I thought Villanueva, on first glance, watching offensive linemen can be tough to do live on the TV tape, but felt like Villanueva had his worst game of the season, and core four certainly had his struggles with Demarcus Lawrence, who's a really good pass rusher. And so that was one of the concerns I had in this game was that pass rusher guy like Demarcus Lawrence. Could he take over? And while that didn't quite happen, they certainly Dallas did made their pass rush impactful in this one. And defensively, it was pretty poor too. A lot of zone defense. I'm not quite sure the reason for that. You weren't facing the mobile quarterback, Lamar Jackson type of guy, Baker Mayfield type of guy that you had been seeing. So I figured you could man up in this game against the really talented receivers, but it just didn't quite happen. I think the biggest reason why you played zone is you played a lot of base, even against 11 personnel, three receiver sets. You were playing your base defense. So linebackers, Dupree and Watt were dropping into coverage, and that forced you to play more zone defense, and that got yourself in trouble all in an effort to stop the run, which you could accept that trade-off if, of course, you stopped the run, which they did not do. They got dominated at the line of scrimmage. They were not physical enough. Guys not getting enough blocks, missing tackles. Again, the physical intensity, even at times a little bit of effort. I don't comment on that too often, but there certainly felt like a little lack of it in this one was an issue. And again, you're missing Tyson Alualu and your defensive line depth has been tested and no Devin Bush, but still, guys got to make plays. And I felt like guys were pressing too much, not doing their job, not containing the edges overall, just containing both this pass rusher and a pass rush unit and run defense. I thought was really poor today. So you've allowed 409 yards in two straight games, the most yards Pittsburgh's run defense has allowed in two straight games since 2000. So that is really uncharacteristically bad for this unit. And in the secondary, it wasn't perfect either. Obviously, there were some bright spots there. Minka having a couple big games, creating some splash plays, interception and fumble recovery. Though Cam Sutton had a great job to pop that one out that kind of fell into Minka's lap. And I thought Sutton's playing really well right now. But beyond that, I mean, you still want to see guys to continue to make more plays at the catch point. Again, I thought Minka had one of his better games of the year, especially as a tackler. But there were just guys that just felt like they weren't quite good enough. Although Joe Hayden, I do need to probably tweet this one out. Joe Hayden had a great tackle on Zeke on a late fourth quarter play where Gilbert somehow got the ball off and dumped it off to Zeke, and Hayden hung on there for dear life and made the play. So secondary was certainly better than the front seven, but there are probably some issues there. And schematically, again, a lot of zone coverage, which I did not really support. And then there were special teams, and you guys know I'm all about Danny Smith, hashtag Danny Smith forever, but not making it easy this week. I mean, it was just bad across the board. And I will say the good, Jordan Berry, third straight game as a Steelers punter where he's punted well, 4 punts for a 50.8, I believe, yard average. So he was solid. And Boswell had a 59-yard field goal. That was a career high and a franchise record, breaking Chris Brown's old record set back in 2001. So that was the good. Everything else, though, was the bad. You had a missed extra point, you had a blocked extra point, and you had a long punt return, you had a long kick return allowed. I mean, it was just bad on all those factors. And so that was rare, uncommon for this team. They've usually been pretty sound and pretty solid in terms of the coverage units this year, but that was really bad. And I thought Dallas did a great job of scouting Pittsburgh and had a really good plan to attack some of the weaknesses. And so there's probably some predictability and self scouting the Steelers and Danny Smith need to do. And so that was disappointing when you get to the point where Tomlin goes for it on fourth down late in the game because he doesn't trust you to make a 30 something yard field goal because of the pressure Dallas was generating. That is an obvious concern. So you guys know my thoughts generally win ugly. You know, I'll take a team that has to battle and get the victory than a team that looks good and loses, obviously. But when it happens to a Dallas team, that's, you know, you'd rather have that against a really good AFC team where you know it's going to be a battle. You just want to come out with a victory. When it's against Dallas, you take it, obviously, win better than a loss. But, you know, certainly some concern there and seeing some trends with the run defense and the rushing attack not going. They're averaging 3.2 yards per carry over the last three games, Tennessee, Baltimore, and Sunday versus Dallas. And so those are things where that are some trends that are becoming alarming that have to improve. And you'll face a Bengals team that certainly is not one of the best in the AFC, but Bengals Steelers AFC North. It's always going to be tough and competitive. Steelers are hurting a little bit. They're feel a little tired right now, to be honest. So you don't want to guarantee that that'll be a win either, because it certainly has a chance to be a pretty close game. So a lot to work on, but you're happy about being 8-0. Clearly, these are good 8-0 problems to have for the Steelers, but certainly some things to work on, and we'll recap and cover that throughout the week. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will talk to you soon.